Alrighty, welcome back to another Mock Draft Wednesday with the Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined, as always, by Frankie Santiago, Matthew Vitale, bringing you guys more hot mock draft content to help you prepare for those upcoming drafts in your leagues. Due to a miscalculation in how many weeks we had left, Frankie actually is the winner. When I was calculating up the dates and adding everything together, I was like, oh yeah, we've got 4 Wednesdays left. Not thinking that the 4th Wednesday was the Wednesday right before the season starts, so we will not be bringing you guys a mock draft that day. One, because it would be coming out the day the season starts, and if you're drafting when the season's already started, boo to you. That's a very poor decision. But then also, we really need that Wednesday to make sure they bring you guys our Thursday game primer and our DFS knowledge, so we can lend that to the world. So that will be a little bit of a change in Wednesday format for us on that date. So congratulations, Frankie, on taking home the mock draft crown. You get the blue jersey, sir.
As your fearless leader, I'm going for 5 today.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to make sure we get you a pristine Quadzilla A.J. Dillon jersey. It's going to be great. We'll put it right over that other jersey from that other running back who I think is still on the Packers.
I mean, honestly, we could probably just order the letters and just
sew it on. That makes it... we'll have to get the new numbers, too.
I was going to say they're wearing the same numbers now.
Oh, no.
A.J. Dillon might as well.
A.J. Dillon will take his number by the end of the season. It's fine.
I respectfully disagree.
But yeah, so Frankie won our little mock draft contest, so he's the winner of the first jersey bet on the show. But we're still gonna do the last couple mock drafts anyway, because we want to make sure that we give you guys as much usable content as possible. Before we get into the mock draft, a little bit of news: David Montgomery carted off the field, which seems like either there's a really bad groin injury or he's a drama queen, because I can't recall a lot of players being carted off the field for a groin injury that's not that bad. But Dave Montgomery carted off the field, reportedly has a groin injury. Bears are optimistic about it. I honestly don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to draft him in the 5th. If he has a groin and might not be able to start the season, but with the Bears being optimistic about it, I really need to see more information to kind of figure out what exactly is going on with his groinal region.
I will say, at least they're trying to give us something. They don't know yet, but at least they're giving us answers. So I'm slightly optimistic.
This is one spot where I would prefer to be less optimistic until I can be more optimistic, because them being like, but we're optimistic about him being carted off the field with the groin. I'm like...
Yeah, as someone who owns zero shares of him, I do also hope it is. I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, you never want to see a guy go down like that before the season even starts or in season.
Yeah, and even if you're not someone who was planning on drafting David Montgomery, you want him there because that's a pick. If you don't believe in him, that's a pick that one of your league mates is going to take in the 5th. Now, if he's not there, then somebody you like in the 5th is going to get taken by one of your draft mates.
110%. Yes.
So fingers crossed for Mr. Montgomery. Hopefully he's nice and healthy in the time for the start of the NFL season. Other news coming out of Bears camp. It appears that Nick Foles has the slight edge over Mitch Trubisky in Chicago. Reportedly, if the season were to start today, it would be Foles in the number 1 QB slot, not Trubisky. So either Foles is looking like he's back to being Big Dick Nick, or Trubisky is not very good. I'm kind of leaning towards Trubisky's not very good.
Yeah, this is my shocked and surprised face.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that Trubisky's getting the job back if he doesn't. If he doesn't go into the season with the job, I think the job is gone.
Especially with a guy like Allen Robinson, who's very comparable to Alshon Jeffrey, both in style of play and build. I mean, we saw what Nick Foles did with Alshon Jeffrey. I think that's kind of a pretty good match. So.
Yeah, I've said before that I don't really care who's under center in Chicago, but I guess if I'm really breaking it down, I am more optimistic for the passing options with Nick Foles than I am with Trubisky, just because I think Foles at least has a little more confidence. I don't think there's a big skill gap there, but I think Foles believes in his throws more. So if I have to take one, I'll take Foles, I guess. But definitely not good news if you're a Trubisky truther, of which I can't believe there's many left. And then final bit of news: AJ Green back and practicing with the Bengals. Pretty glad to hear about that. AJ Green, he's in the older side for receivers, but he's someone who could provide very well for fantasy owners if he's on the field with that Bengals offense under Zach Taylor, having Joe Burrow throw him the ball. I mean, he's been a very good receiver when he's been healthy. So, if AJ Green can keep staving off the injury bug that's been plaguing him and actually put together even half a season, I'm excited to see what he can do with the kid out there. So AJ Green, stay healthy. Ice those hammies and whatever. You guys got any news that I missed?
No, that was pretty much it.
Cool. Let's get into the draft today then. We are on the clock with Frankie to start out of the 3-hole. I am drafting right behind him at 4. And then Vitaly, with the team name worst to second, is drafting out of 11.
Yeah, he's taken my bottom half spot,
So
Yeah, I'm coming for that second spot.
yeah, you guys can tie it up, and I don't know what second place gets. Nothing. So
a firm handshake.
Yes.
A solid high five, a crisp beer maybe.
I will give one of you a solid high five and a pat on the back.
Vitaly, I'll make you a bet right now. Loser has to buy the other one a 4-pack.
How many mock drafts do we have left?
We have 2.
I'm gonna take Zeke here while you guys are hashing this out.
I'll think about it.
Think about it. That's not the snappy decision making we need in this world.
Yeah, I can make snappy decisions when it comes about something I'm informed in. I'm picking out of the 11 hole. This is new territory for me. But when it comes to a bet, I want to make sure I'm all the way in on this. Like when I'm with Doug Fister and how I got this jersey. I knew the Fist man for a long time, and I knew he could produce for the Red Sox even though they sucked.
I didn't know that you knew Doug Fister.
Yes, I know. Very well.
Frankie, fine. I'll make you a bet if Vitaly is too scared. I bet you that I beat Vitaly over these last 2.
I will not take that bet.
So
I took Alvin Kamara, by the way, after you took Zeke. He's my favorite of the running backs going in that range. His position is safer than Cook's, and I like his passing volume. So I'll take Kamara at number 4 every day of the week. He's not a lock for me.
Yeah, I didn't really think that was a choice there by Tyler to take CEH. If he's falling to 11, I'm taking him every time.
This is a juicy pair I'm getting right here in CEH, following that with Miles Sanders. I was hoping CEH might fall. I knew I would need a little bit of pick luck there, and the computer taking a couple wide receivers, which they did. And CEH made his way back to me, and then followed that up with Miles Sanders. And I think that's a dynamite duo. I think coming out of the back, especially in the 11 hole.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm a big fan of CEH. I'm a big fan of Miles Sanders if he's going to be starting the year. So, yeah, give me all of those players, especially in that range. My board is not loading. Here we go. I do love that, though. Getting Kenyon Drake at 209, it warms my heart. He's someone who I'm still very bullish on him despite all of the talk in camp and the boot and everything. So, to be able to snag him in that range.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be surprised when you go ahead and lock this one in. So you can just get that rolling. You can go ahead and take your love child, Aaron Jones.
I'm getting kind of hurt by these drafts where Aaron Jones is falling to the back of the second. I mean, obviously, Quadzilla is a factor, but I mean, he was going around the end of the first, mid-second. Now he's all the way at the back. I don't like it. But I love it at the same time.
Fantasy community, we here strive to hurt Frankie's feelings. So if you're listening, let Aaron Jones fall all the way into the early third. We want to just really salt this wound as much as we can.
Although I am going to, take a gamble here, and I am going to pick Mike Evans. Just to see how my draft kind of plays out, see what receivers I end up with. I've never really drafted out of this slot, as I like to address every single draft.
I like how you're just going for the highest percentage player there, Frankie, Mr. All-season hater of Mike Evans, taking him to bolster that draft slot at the end of the day.
I mean, I don't really like DJ Moore. I don't like Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback. I mean, he's a very safe quarterback. But
hey, listen, I'm just calling it how I see it. You're taking guys that you've taped saying you hate because the mock draft says that you should take him. I took Juju Smith-Schuster at 304, which is who you should have taken at 303. I think that Juju has insane upside for the third round. the guy at the top of the board right now is probably who I would have taken if Juju wasn't there. Mr. DJ Moore.
Yeah, I don't usually see him making it that far back. So even though I'm following the same strategy, these guys that I'm loving are just ending up at the top of my boards, and I'm just stoked. And once again, it happened again. Robert Woods sitting there for me at my 4-2 pick.
That was a little easier to see, though. You only had 2 picks go in between you and your next pick.
But
So.
I mean, he still took Calvin Ridley there, so it's not out of the realm of possibility he could have gone for 2 wide receivers or just taken him over Ridley. But yeah, getting DJ and Robert Woods there gives me a great floor receiver.
Yeah, I do like that a lot.
So I am going to go ahead and take Robert Woods' counterpart in that offense. I'm going to grab Cooper Kupp at 4-9. Cooper's not someone that I've been getting a lot of because he's been going before Robert Woods. But if this trend keeps up where Robert Woods starts going up boards and Cooper starts falling, I will likely end up with a lot more Cooper Kupp as the season goes into play, because I don't really care which of them I get. I just want one of them, and Robert Woods to this point has been the more affordable one.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Cooper Kupp be that guy in that offense before, but I mean, Jared Goff throws the ball enough where, I mean, you can
and Cooper Kupp gets most of the touchdown looks in that offense, at least passing-wise.
Well, my main point there was that Jared Goff can support 2 guys having all that volume.
Yes. We've seen him be able to support 3, so... Who are you taking here at 5-3, Frankie?
Well, I took Lockett with my last pick, and the guy that I was hoping would still be there at the turnaround, Mr. Scary Terry up there, is still there. So I think I kind of have to lock him up here. Because he's not.
Now, with him sitting there, a popular question is going to be on a lot of people's minds as they fall almost right next to each other is DJ Chark versus Scary Terry. Are you more on Scary Terry's team, on F1's team, than Mr. Chark?
Yeah, I guess I'm not. We already addressed this when we talked about Scary Terry before, or F1 as you guys are calling him.
Because he doesn't like the name Scary Terry.
Anyways, I'm not worried about Haskins. I mean, he showed last year that he could put up those numbers.
Alex
regardless.
Smith is back in camp too. I mean, it could end up being Alex Smith, which would be a massive upgrade.
Oh yeah.
But I guess for me for that question, it really depends on what your draft looked like to that point. Because Terry McLaurin, for all of his skill, he likely is going to be a little bit more of a fluctuating player. You know, you're not always going to get a stable result out of him because Dwayne Haskins is still his quarterback. I mostly look at him versus Chark or one of those other safer receivers in that range. You know, what did I take to this point? You know, if I took, Mike Evans as my first wide receiver off the board, I probably wouldn't have taken Terry McLaurin there, because to me that doesn't represent a safe pick. You know, you don't want to have too many of those boomer bust guys in your offense. And to me, Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin are both guys who, maybe Terry's floor isn't 0 like Mike Evans is, but like those are both guys who, if they bust out on the same week, which could happen given the type of receiver they are and the offenses they're in, you lose that week. So, if you want to take a shot at Terry McLaurin, who I love this season, just draft a little bit safer earlier. Grab Kenny Golladay or Chris Godwin, and then turn back around and grab DJ Moore or Juju, and then shoot for that upside guy like Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, that's kind of when I went with my picks while we were discussing that. I ended up going DK Metcalf to give my guy, since I lacked that boom upside on my team.
Sure.
But going back to those two, I think I'm more on the Chark team just because we have more years under the belt with Chark, and just all the confidence that's coming out of Teal Steel is just making me believe in that man more and more and more. Especially with his new contest where if you draft him in the first round, you can win some free beer. I mean,
disclaimer to our viewers: do not do that. No matter how much you like, Teal Steel, and how much you think the Gardner Minshew is a great fantasy pick, he is never going to be worth it in the first round. The best quarterbacks in the league are not worth it in that round. Please don't do that.
I would love to see someone just do it, though, if they know they're in maybe if you're in a family league or something like that, just do it and then try and just, trade and work that waiver wire to get yourself, to the top of your league and still win and just use him. Like that, I would love to see that story at the end of the season.
I do enjoy free beer, so.
All right.
But Tyler, what are you looking at here? You got 10 seconds.
There I went with Evan Ingram. I'm becoming less of a fan of the mid-round tight end, but I was really hoping for Waller, who I faded with my first pick of when I went with DK, and the turnaround pick ended up taking him. So I ended up going with David Montgomery in the top of the 6, who we were already seeing his ADP fall because of this injury, which is good to see that they're projecting it that way. But this pick here is a lot more difficult. I'm actually going to go with a little bit of a safe pick here and scoop up Jordan Howard as just a safety pick in case Montgomery's not good to go, or I just need a guy to fill in for a week.
Sure.
Just because, as you said before, Ian, he's just a guy who's going to run forward and get okay points, and it's better than 0.
He'll get you 4 yards a carry, 87 yards a game. Sometimes he'll fall into the end zone. He'll end up at the end of the season with like 210 carries, maybe 1,000 yards. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab Latavius Murray here. He is my 5th running back, so I'm probably gonna cool it on running backs a little bit after this. But Latavius, the 8th round, I'm seeing more and more is sort of the round where the players that I really care about start to dry up. So I'll take Latavius Murray as one of the last backs that I really believe in off the board, one of the only handcuffs that I care about at all. And then as after the 8th round, 9th, 10th, 11th, that's when I'll start looking to address tight end and quarterback because I haven't really even looked at those positions yet, and obviously they need to be addressed at some point. So, but I won't, unlike you with the mid round tight ends, I won't touch a tight end or a quarterback really until the what I consider the value players are off the board, and you're just looking at those guys where basically everyone's a question mark.
Fair. Yeah, I actually did see as I was just rolling through the Twitter that somebody did I can't remember the Twitter handle, but he actually did a little graph on the past, I believe it was about 8 years, comparing ADP to how many tight end 1 finishes they had. And he actually, so it was about the guys that go in the first 3 rounds usually return about 75% tight end 1 performances, where basically every other round is a wash. So basically he was advocating you either take a guy in the first 3 rounds and you get that value, or you wait till the very end and take a guy like Hawk, Fant, those guys.
Yeah.
Which is something we've been saying all season. And I'm actually getting more on the train with potentially taking a George Kittle type if our league sleeps on him too much and he slips back to me in maybe the 3rd or the 4th.
3rd round is when I would start to look at that. 2nd round, the value is still too high. I wouldn't rather have Kittle than, Godwin or Julio or Kenyon Drake or Aaron Jones, or even I think probably rather have Kenny Golladay than Chris Godwin. But once you start to get into that 3rd round, you're looking at like the Amari Coopers and the Mike Evans of the world. That's when I think the Kelseys and the Godwins spike up boards and they become a lot more of a value than they would otherwise. All right, so I am back on the clock here at 10-9. I took Hayden Hurst with my last pick, a tight end that I have been drafting a lot of this year. Basically been drafting him and Hawkinson. And I'm actually going to go ahead and grab another wide receiver that I think is, while he is a bit more of a question mark, a exciting question mark, and a guy who could play his way into a very big role for fantasy owners this season. And that's Anthony Miller. He's been working with Allen Robinson in the offseason. If Nick Foles under center, he's a little bit more capable of a quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. I think Anthony Miller could be in a nice spot to at least be a good flex option, bye week fill-in, maybe a good matchup play, with obviously the upside for a top 24 guy. Frank, who are you taking here at 11-3? I know your boy Mecole Hardman just went off the board.
I'm thinking quarterback here. There's still a couple of guys I like on the board. And I don't think I need to shore up my tight end yet. I could probably wait a little bit longer. So
sure.
I am going to go a little bit further down and pick up Aaron Rodgers here.
Rodgers!
I think he has...
Discount double check!
I think he has tremendous potential to... I mean, you're getting him in, the 11th round?
Oh, yeah.
I think he could be the QB1. I mean, I think that there is definitely the opportunity there with a receiver like Devontae Adams, Lazard. I think it's more of a, I don't know why Aaron Rodgers is falling so far down draft boards. Maybe it's the concentration of running backs at the top. We have a really good wide receiver class this year, so
I mean, I've backed off of Rodgers a bit. I don't think he has the ability to come in number one. I think he's still a very solid fantasy pick in the range that he's going. But I look at that Packers team, and they just, to me, because Rodgers doesn't really run, so he's not gonna get you much done on the ground. He runs more than your traditional pocket passers, but he's not even a Patrick Mahomes or an Andrew Luck. You know, he is a bit more of a statue in the pocket than them, especially in his older age. Rodgers' path to one is on like a 40 touchdown season, which I just don't think is in his range of outcomes anymore. So I'm kind of shying off of Rodgers in this range, especially if there's other quarterbacks kicking around that I think have a more direct path to that top slot, like a Ben Roethlisberger, who we know is still going to go out there and just huck the rock as often as he can, as much as he can.
So what are you thinking here at 12-9?
I'm going to take my other favorite tight end, and I'm going to get TJ Hawkinson because I'm really tired. Everyone always advocates for just drafting one tight end, even, no matter what level of tight end you get. With how many guys there are this year that are, I guess a little more like locked in breakout guys where you feel a little bit more confident about them breaking out this year. I want to take my shot at the guys that I think are most likely to break out, so I don't have to spend that free agent budget on them if they break out in season, or I don't have to watch them break out on someone else's team, especially with how iffy the people are in this range. I'd rather call my shot on two tight ends that I really like to break out and use that extra bench spot on them, and that way hopefully they both break out and I have one to trade, or hopefully at least one of them breaks out, and that way I can just cut the other one and move on with the one who's flourishing on my team.
Yeah. I think that's probably the smart way to go this year with the late tight end strategy, just because there's a few guys I value in the later rounds, but if you're in a sharper league, those guys are going to get snapped up, so you might get a couple of them, but I feel like the value of snapping up one of these breakout tight ends in the back of your draft is worth the second pick investment in the double digits, where you could just be buying in on a guy, Michael Pittman Jr. I like his upside, and there's certainly something there, but at the end of the day, he's still a rookie. He's still coming into a quarterback who's learning the system. We're dealing with this whole COVID thing, so he's a lot more iffy to me than a guy like Hawk. So I'd rather have Hawk on my team than Pittman if I got to make that choice.
Yeah.
And the other thing to consider too, with some of these guys, like if you can call that breakout tight end, I mean, let's look at it compared to last year. There were people shouting from the rooftops about Waller, but no one was grabbing him. Waller ended up being the guy, and now Waller's going in the 5th round of drafts. So you shouldn't look at it like you're drafting 11th round tight end. If you really believe, and if you don't believe there's two breakout tight ends, don't draft two tight ends. But if you believe there's two tight ends in that range who could break out, be it Hawk, Hurst, Jonnu, Fant, Herndon, Jarwin, I don't care. Like, there's a ton of them this year.
Yeah, there's a lot.
If you really believe that there's a handful who could break out, buy in on them, because you are essentially buying yourself what could be a 5th round value in next year's draft in the 11th round.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about that too is there are a lot of those late round guys, and it's you just have to basically weigh them.
And the late round guys, so many of them are going to end up on the waiver wire like 2 weeks in. Like I drafted Anthony Miller and Alan Lazard as some bench depth for me, but if Alan Lazard is doing nothing 2 weeks in, he's gone. Cut him. Bye. I'm picking up someone else.
Yeah,
fantasy football is all about movement and keeping your team active and current and making sure that you're not falling behind on what the trends are in season. So like these late round guys, they're late round guys for a reason. It's because they have a very small probability of success. So if they just don't work out, whatever, I'd just get rid of them, give me someone else. Whereas like I'd rather have, like I said, like that double shot at getting the the tight end who's going to perform as a top 5 guy,
Yeah, and that's what,
or at least closer to it.
that's the point that I was trying to make there. Is like I wasn't even talking to like receivers, specifically tight ends. I was looking at, and it's a dart throw in the late rounds, and at the end of the day, it's a gut play. Whatever guy you look at and say, you know what, this is the guy this year, take the risk. Like, take 2 risks. But I think that that's a lot of what fantasy football is, too. It's like you have a feeling about a guy, go for it.
All right, let's go over our scores.
I already have a sneak preview of one. I'm not happy about it, but
I can see that Frankie cheesing and taking Mike Evans brought him a victory.
I'm also just a little bit salty because my last 2 picks, I scooped up N'Keal Harry and James Washington.
Yeah.
So my team is going into the season right now without a defense. and I'm 5 points behind Frankie. I got a 93.
Oh, no, you're not 5 points behind me.
Well, in the overall.
Oh.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
Oh, I got 94.
Yeah. So when I picked that up, I was like, all right, and I'll just, I think I thought we had a 16th round coming, so I was like, yeah, I'll just scoop it up there where I thought it was going to force me, but nope, you can go through this without that. I was like, you know what, I got a 93. Maybe I'll win this without a defense and just a little stunt on you, but nope, I guess
Hey,
Frankie,
you got the best starters, though.
No, I got the 3rd best starters.
Well,
Out of us, I mean.
and
Out of
that's
us,
this is a teaching moment, though, I think, because viewers, don't do what Frankie did and just take the guy that the experts say to take because he's the highest rated guy on the board, because he isn't always actually the highest rated guy on the board. It's why it's important to do your own research and to have tiers and understand who you like, because if you're just blindly picking players because a computer program tells you to, you're probably not going to like your team at the end of the draft. Like Mike Evans, as much as he is a very good actual fantasy player or actual football player, we've seen him be not so good for fantasy on occasion. He always has that nice finish, but it's how he gets there.
He is typically one of those guys that ends up on the trade target board where it's like he just produced 2 duds in a row. Go try and snipe him off the team that might have just lost because of him. But yeah, it's one of those things where if an injury happens late, if something comes up, like if something happens right before a draft, you're not going to know. So if you do your research, if you stay plugged in, you can avoid when the auto drafter's sitting there and saying, all right, time to take Deshaun Jackson or something like that. All right, maybe I'm going to swerve this guy. Because, I mean, we had a draft before where Jerick McKinnon got taken in the 3rd, and as we walked out of the draft, he had torn his ACL.
Literally, as we walked out of the draft.
Yeah, he had torn his ACL. We did more of a home league where after the 5th round or 6th round, Andrew Luck got taken, and then we found out he retired.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mid-draft, it was like 10th round, we found out he was retired.
Oh, yeah.
What was that, Brad that had him?
Yeah. All right, well, that'll do it for us this week. We will join you guys on Sunday for another Best Ball Sunday episode. So tune in then. We look forward to seeing you all, and happy drafting.